The seed of reproductive justice has produced a tree that is producing the fruit of Black death. The seed of reproductive justice has produced a tree that is producing the fruit of Black death. Welcome back to the Biblical Conservative channel, where we come against the anti-God, anti-Black, anti-human, anti-biblical, and anti-Christian spirit that is looking to take over this nation and take over the world. We're coming against the globalists and the progressives who have an agenda that is harmful to everyone. Please be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell so you receive the freshest content. During his 2020 campaign, Joe Biden infamously went on the Breakfast Club and made the statement, "If you don't vote for me, then you ain't Black," or something along those lines.
So if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't Black.
Now, for rationally minded people, that statement would have been repulsive. How can a candidate make such an outrageous statement regarding a group of people and still expect that group to vote for him? Fast forward to November 2020, and those comments made by Biden were long forgotten. He still garnered nearly 90% of the Black vote. What has that provided for Black people during the Biden presidency? Next to nothing, unless you want to count a White House spokesperson or the first multi-ethnic vice president. But those are just the tokens the Democratic Party, to a large extent, and the Republican Party, to a lesser extent, have given to Black voters. With the lack of attention given to them, combined with the outright unbiblical and satanic agenda of liberals and progressives, the common refrain is, how can Black Christians continue to vote Democrat?
What do you have to lose?
While I believe the sentiment is sincere, I don't think it is genuine. If it was truly genuine, then there will be an outreach or inroads made to reach those who do not look or speak like the traditional conservative. If it was truly authentic, then the effort to understand the voting habits would be undertaken instead of hurling insults or attacking the intelligence of the community as a whole. People would make the effort to go and speak to the people in those communities. After working with Black Christian voters and from family experience, one must understand the spiritual nature of politics. We can't understand the spiritual components without a spiritual lens. That spiritual lens only comes through a renewed mind based on the Word of God. The aim of politics is to influence and coerce enough citizens to side with you over someone else. Just like the Word of God is a seed, the words spoken by men are also seeds. These seeds are planted in the hearts and minds of individuals. What is produced by those seeds is entirely dependent upon how frequently that soil is watered. Watering occurs by the constant hearing of the same message. Faith comes by hearing. In today's world, this message is communicated by various channels. For the Black community, the primary channels are CNN and MSNBC. These are the irrigation systems used by liberals and progressives to water the seeds planted by politicians. In order for the message to take hold, the soil must be fertile and sturdy enough to support the growing tree. Therefore, one must ensure that there is no interference from weeds. In this case, the weeds are alternative messaging or viewpoints. Yet the liberals know that in order for their seeds to produce in the lives of their victims, because they want us all to be victims, but we are not victims, we are empowered for greatness, they know there cannot be any room for competition. And knowing the conservative, biblical nature of Black Christians, the Marxists and communists had to water down and dilute the influence of the Word of God. You see, the Word of God is the most powerful seed, and the communists and the Marxists and the satanic ideology that they're spewing, they know this. So what do they do to dilute it? They corrupted the seed distributors, i.e. the ministers. By targeting the ministers, they understood the power and influence that ministers possess in the black community. They needed to harness and control that for themselves. So they cozied up to the ministers and allured them with power, influence, and riches. Sounds like what Satan tempted Jesus with, right? An example of this is Dr. King. We all respect and admire Dr. King for the work that he did to help bring about equality in this nation, to push America to realize that it was not living up to its ideals. I mean, Dr. King is remembered fondly today for that, and I remember him fondly. I've been to the Dr. King Museum in Washington, D.C. It's breathtaking. It really is. It truly is breathtaking. However, did you know that Dr. King was an advocate and supporter of Planned Parenthood? Did you know that he received accolades from Planned Parenthood? This helps to explain why so many black ministers have reacted in the manner that they have since the Dobbs decision. The seed of reproductive justice has produced a tree that is producing the fruit of black death. The seed of reproductive justice has produced a tree that is producing the fruit of black death. Yet instead of preaching against this, they are championing and affirming this behavior. The same can be said of the LGBTQ movement. It has been strategic in planting seeds of affirmation in the hearts of black Christians. So when the time comes to choose between what is biblical and what is abnormal, a majority of black Christians choose the abnormal. In order to restore a biblical worldview in the black community, we must first recognize the trees that have been planted and that have sprouted. We have spent too much unnecessary time focused on the fruit that has fallen from the trees. We must now address the roots. However, we can't solve spiritual problems with political solutions. The hearts and minds of most traditional black Christians have been poisoned by a satanic culture. It's time for us to provide the antidote. It's time for us to bring back biblical truth in our churches and our communities. That's the only way. And bring back the biblical structure of the family, the biblical structure of a community, the biblical structure when it comes to everything that pertains to life. See, the Bible talks about He's given us everything that pertains to life and godliness. But because we have watered down seed, because we have ministers that have been corrupted by power, influence, and by notoriety, by fame, people are not receiving the unadulterated word of God. People are voting against their best interests. They're voting for people that do not have their best interests in mind. They're voting for people that want to make them victims. We are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. It's up to us who have the truth to give the truth in a loving way. This whole reproductive justice is leading to black death, is leading to the destruction of the black community. Just think about all the latest examples. You got Black Lives Matter out in Minneapolis championing for a person that shot into the home of another person. But yet the only time they came, Benjamin Crump, the only time they came to fight was when he was dead. We have to change that narrative. We must fight for black life, because if we don't, we will continue spiraling down this path of destruction. But we are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. Thank you so much for liking your comments and subscribing to the channel. Please share this with your friends. Smash that like button. Smash the subscription bell. Share this with everybody you know. We're trying to make sure people understand that they're not victims, that they are empowered for greatness, and all this stuff that's out here that's telling them otherwise is false and will not benefit them in the end. So please, I appreciate that. Share that.